Hello, change makers. Hello, social innovators all around Africa and the world. We welcome you to yet another beautiful edition of the Social Impact webinar hosted by Ideation of Africa. I am your very amiable host and moderator, Tony Banjo, also the project director for Ideation of Africa. We're super excited to have everyone on board. And in that light, we want you to share in the comment section where you're joining us from. So we would love to read from each of you. Share in the comment section where you're joining us from. If you're joining us from um, US, UK, Canada, you're joining us from any part of the African continent, Kenya, South Africa, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Namibia, Angola, etc. Just type in the comment section your name and your location where you're joining us from. We're super excited about tonight's webinar, which marks our second webinar in 2022. And tonight's webinar will be shedding so much light on practical ways of accessing global opportunities as a young African leader. And we're super excited about tonight because we have a very quintessential quintessential guest mentor who will join us tonight to shed more light on this topic. All right, it's so great to read from Sarah Ubana. Sarah Ubana is joining us from Abuja, Nigeria. Thank you so much, Sarah. It's so good to have you here with us. You can also share what you do and be part of the organization you work with. This is also a great networking opportunity, and maybe, just maybe, someone will be looking forward to connecting with you. Yes, so we're super excited about tonight. And just before we kickstart the webinar, I will want you to just share in the comment section your expectations for tonight. So just type in the comment section, what are you looking forward to hearing? What are your set expectations for today's or tonight's webinar? Would love to excitedly read from each of you. So Sarah, please type in the comment section. Tell us your name, your organization, where you're joining us from, and what your set expectations are for this webinar. So Sarah, we'd love to read from you. We also are welcoming every other person who's joining in tonight. So please type in the comment section. We'd love to read from each of you. All right. So all right. So Sarah says, I'm an elderly care consultant. I run a nonprofit organization called AZA Initiative. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Sarah. And we're super proud of you for the amazing work that you're doing. So type in the comment section for us, Sarah, and every other person who is tuned in tonight, your set expectations for tonight's webinar. We would love to read from you. Yes, so please just type in the comment section your set expectations. Tonight promises to be a very great learning opportunity, as we will be really dissecting pragmatic ways to access global opportunities, most especially for young African leaders. And we have curated very great questions. And we also have in the house with us, a very, a very great guest mentor who would shed so much light on this topic. All right. Thank you, Sarah. So we would love to read from everyone else who is joining in tonight. So please type in the comment section. Type in the comment section, where you're joining from, your name, your organization, and your set expectations. So Sarah, we're waiting for you. Type in the comment section your set expectations for tonight. What are you looking forward to hearing, or what are your expectations for tonight's webinar? We'd love to read from you. Thank you so much. All right. Okay, so we're waiting on every other person. Just type in the comment section. All right. Okay, so yes, we would love to read from. So once again, this is the Ideation Hub Africa Social Impact webinar. We welcome each of you warmly to the second edition of the Social Impact webinar in 2022. And so we were going to use the next few minutes to charge you to call on your colleagues, call on you people within your sphere of influence, call on your friends, call on other change makers, collaborators to be a part of tonight's webinar. We all are looking forward to have more people join us. So please send that reminder to your sphere of influence, send the message to your friend, have everyone join us tonight. Thank you so much. All right. So I look forward to reading your set expectations. All right. Thank you, Sarah, for sharing. I know Sarah is not the only one who is tuned in. I can see that we have more people. So please share with us your name, your organization, and where you're joining us from, and your set expectation for tonight's webinar. All right, Sarah says, my set expectation will be really getting clarity on how to access global opportunities as well as landmines to avoid in putting my organization out there to access such opportunities. Beautiful question. I love it. I love the expression. It's just succinct and super clear. And I can assure you that tonight promises to be that night where you would gain as much clarity and insight about the global opportunities that exist, and definitely how to avert um, road mines or roadblocks or obstacles that could, one way or the other, mitigate against you accessing such opportunities. All right, so we want to read for more of our audience. Please let us know where you're joining us from, your name, your organization, and as well as your location. Please type in the comment section. You just don't know who is tuned in at the moment, and definitely this could be a very great networking opportunity for you. All right, we're waiting. Okay. All right. Okay, thank you, Sarah, for sharing. So I'm super excited because we already have in the studio with us our guest mentor, Fidelis Bonaventure Ozoma. So I think we can just have that exciting ride. But while I would, just have him come on board, I would do a brief introduction of our guest mentor. Thank you, Gochi Obadego. She's one of our very formidable community members. Thank you. And she's joining us from Manhattan, New York. Thank you, Gochi. We're super, super excited to have you with us tonight. Thank you, Fidelis. How are you doing tonight?
Mic check. Please, can you hear me?
Clearly, super clearly.
Excellent. I'm very well, very well. Apologies for the bit of delay. Sometimes because of the time difference and the weather
Yes.
conditions here, sometimes we have a bit of delay here and there. So please apologies for the delay. But I'm fully here and I'm very excited to be here. Thank you very much, Toyi, and nice to meet everyone. I
Thank
can't
you
see
so
anyone
much.
yet, but I know both folks are joining in.
Yes, yes, we have people coming on board already or joined in already. Thank you
Right.
so much, Fidelis. So we're just going to hit it right in. But just before I, throw it open to you to really get into your presentation and all of that, and then we move on to the second phase of the webinar, which will be the Q&A forum. I would want to just briefly introduce you to our audience. All right, so Fidelis. Bonaventure Zoma is an award winning and highly motivated leadership cum talent development professional with over 6 years experience in consulting, organizational development, L&D, leadership programming, and HR strategy implementation for small and large organizations across diverse industries, including international, nonprofits, private and public sectors. Fidelis has proven success in leveraging educational theories and methodologies to research, design, develop, and deliver organizational strategy and capacity development programs globally. A passionate people's person with excellent interpersonal skills, Fidelis enjoys growing and working in teams to deliver premium service to stakeholders. A die-hard optimist, lifelong learner with high energy levels and cheerful individuality. As an advocate for inclusive workforce, he works at the intersection of business, nonprofit, and development, where he designs and implements high-impact leadership programs targeted at building the leadership capacity of fast-rising organizations by deploying learning and development programs to accelerate workforce upskilling and organizational growth. Fidelis has also acquired an expansive experience in designing, planning, implementing, monitoring, evaluating, and reporting inclusive human capital development programs funded by US government, UK government, Tony Elumelu Foundation, and other donors focused on improving competence building, professional development, job access, and economic empowerment of young people in Africa. As a consultant, Fidelis works on an advisory basis with mission driven organizations to facilitate innovative, inclusive, and results oriented CSR programs, building on a vast experience and knowledge of best practices in program design to develop and deploy tailored approaches that ensure effective program results. He has to this end enhanced his ability to design impactful and relevant interventions that meet client objectives and corporate stakeholder buy-in. He has worked with individuals and organizations to make impact and make money, while providing the growth mechanism to build influence as impact-driven organizations. Fidelis' commitment has not gone unnoticed. His passion for value-based leadership and community service made him receive many leadership awards and fellowships with world-class organizations, including the Africa Comet Fellowship, Obama Foundation Fellowship, Aspen Institute Award, British Council, Tony Elumelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Award, U.S. Department of State Atlas Corps Fellowship, American Express Academy, World Bank, Crans Montana, and the United Nations. Once again, we're super excited to have on board Fidelis Bonaventure Zoba. Thank you once again for tonight. All right, so you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Tony. I am flabberwhelmed and overgasted by your renditions of my biography. Sometimes when I hear people read those things, I'm like, I can't believe that's myself and that's who I am, you know. So but to be honest, I'm honestly very thankful for the opportunity to just come share one or two thoughts and basically share some basic best practice and expertise on how best to provide opportunities for young African leaders. First and foremost, I want to commend your work and commend Patience, commend Ideation Hub Africa for the great work you're doing, and thank you very
Mhm.
much for making these opportunities available for a lot of young folks. I believe that one of the things that makes us great leaders is the ability to democratize opportunities
Yes.
for other folks. And so there's one of the core quotes that I'm very, very excited about by, Michelle Obama. She says, whenever you enter through a door, you must always leave it open for others to enter. And
Mm,
so it's a great philosophy that has guided my mindsets, my approach to things and all of that. So thank you very much. And it's a pleasure to be here.
thank
Um,
you.
yeah. So how do you want me to do? You want me to come up with my presentation and share it, right?
Yes, yes, you can.
Okay, if you don't mind, I would like to just share the screen. Is that okay with
Yes,
you?
please go
Okay,
ahead too.
okay, please.
All right. Okay. So can you see the share button in there? It's a
Yes,
plus
please.
sign. Yes.
Yes.
So just click on share screen and it says slides. Then click on
Right.
slides. Yes. And then you can upload your file
Okay.
from your computer.
Right. Um,
All right. So welcome on board, Ajela Masembe. Good evening to you. Thank you for joining all the way from Germany. We're super excited to have you with us tonight, as well as Adiremi Ayola. Thank you for joining us tonight all the way from Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you so much. All right. All right. So Angela, tell us where you what organization do you work for? You can type that in comment section, as well as Adiremi. What organization do you work for? What do you do? Type that in the comment section. We're excited and look forward to reading from you. We're looking excitedly, yeah. So I can see that more people are joined in, have joined in. So just type in the comment section your name, your location, where you're joining us from, as well as the organization you are working with.
Please bear with me. This is processing. It's uploaded, but sometimes this
Uploading.
internet thing, so it's
Yes,
uploading and
yes,
hopefully to be up soon.
it's fine. Okay, great. I can see it.
You can
So
see it
let me
now.
add you yes, I can see. So I'll just take out myself and add you to the screen. All right.
Excellent, excellent.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you very much once again for the opportunity to be here. Today, I just wanted to couch the topic a little and make it a bit more specific. I think one of the core, my job here basically is to see how we can provide the right tools and resources for young people, especially young leaders. And I'm very, very keen to say young leaders because I believe that one of the greatest, as it were, mandate we've been given as emerging leaders is also to build leaders, right? So I like the fact that there's a lot of emphasis on building the next generation of African leaders, and I thought that's important to think about how best to access global opportunities, leveraging on the best tips and perspectives to make that happen. And I want to start first and foremost by saying that the concept of basically accessing opportunities is a mindset thing. So, and I thought that as much as there are a lot of opportunities there, not everybody has the skill sets, the mindsets, and the necessary resilience to approach these opportunities. And for some of us who have been in this industry for years, right, we understand that it looks like a lot of people are getting opportunities. A lot of people have access to things like scholarship, international development opportunities, exchange programs, acceleration grants, and you're like, why am I not even part of those who are getting all these wonderful opportunities and all of that? But there are things we call the language of the legends and the mindsets that some of these people have. And that is the only difference between them and you. That's the only difference. They know some things that you do not know. And my goal here is basically to help you specifically leverage those top tips that makes that happen for you as a leader, whether you are in any part of the continent. And again, I'm happy to share this resource to anyone who is looking forward to getting them. So I termed this as accessing global opportunities, tips and perspectives on how best to get this. Thank you very much, Tony. I know a lot has been said about me, and I'm so happy and so grateful for that opportunity. But there is one very easy way I try to define myself, and again, this is important because it will give a perspective into exactly why I'm very excited about what I do. I believe that I'm a leadership development practitioner because I'm constantly looking for ways to help develop the next generation of leaders by giving them the learning opportunities, not just to discover themselves, but to be also very successful in their personal development space, in business, in the corporate sector, and even in governance. I believe that after all is said and done, the human capital is the greatest capital on earth. Right. And that's why I'm so big on basically building the next generation of leaders, building the capacity of people to solve problems and also help a generation like mine, the millennial generation, to not just discover who they are as people but to understand what their mandate is, especially within a continent and the context of Africa that most of us live in. I also enjoy learning and development. For over 4 years I have practiced a lot of learning and development programs, projects, and even offices and roles. Have had the opportunity not just to design educational and high impact programs and solutions, for organizations, but I've also been given the opportunity also to build programs that are very inclusive, and I help corporate workforce become very excellent at what they do. So all through my years, in the course of doing most of this, I've had the opportunities to travel, to go to the US, to travel to the US. Had a couple of opportunities and fellowships there. Within Africa, I got a couple of awards. I got the Tony Nimelu Awards, got British Council, got a couple of yearly driven awards as well. And more recently, I got the Africa Comms Fellowship, which is based here in Germany. And I currently work with SAP. So the beauty about all of these opportunities I've had access to has been the fact that I'm consistently very, very intentional about not just building myself, but thinking about the best solution I want to bring to the world. So that's how I define myself. As you can see in those pictures, this is a community of young people as well, change makers who are trying to make the world a better place. But again, for the sake of the audience there, I always think about how best to make sure that we can make our mindset global, how we can make our opportunities global, how Africans can begin to think of solving African problems and exporting, those solutions to the world. There's a theory that Africa is a consumerist economy, a consumerist continent. But I beg to differ because a good number of the leaders, especially young emerging leaders, are not just solving wicked problems within the continent, but are also helping the world run as it speaks. So I believe that to do that, we need to build the leadership capacity and competencies of young African leaders. So one of my core philosophies, I said, my goal here is basically to help us with the right mindset in accessing these opportunities, right? The first thing I'm very quick to talk about is there are many opportunities out there, right? But the mindset has to be right. And the first mindset is everybody who is aspiring to be not just a leader within the continent, but who wants to have access to lead, access to travel abroad, as it were, access to get grants, access to have international development opportunities, even access to get funding, whatever opportunity looks like for you, right? You must first and foremost aspire to be a person of value. And again, we can begin to talk about what it means to, what value means. We can talk about it from the economic perspective. We can talk about it from the philosophical perspective, from the spiritual perspective. We can talk about it from all of that. But fundamentally, what it means is that you have to be a person who has something to offer to the world, to the community, to the people you serve. And what that looks like would only be dependent on who you are, what your greatest values are, and what skill set you have developed over time. All right. So we can define opportunities as maybe having extra education, maybe having access to, international jobs, whatever that looks like for you. It may even mean having to relocate to stay in another country. It may mean even having the opportunity to build an organization, sort of, such as Ideation Hub Africa, basically to democratize opportunities, to build the skills, the skill sets, the abilities, the competencies of younger leaders within the continent. Whatever opportunity looks like for you, it may mean anything for you. But ultimately, the goal of this is to be able to access some of the best opportunities in the world, right? You must be a person of value. That should be the first mindset. And I said, you are as valuable as the problems you solve. That's it. You are as valuable as the problem you solve. And I believe that anybody who is an advocate for solving problem would always, always, always be a person of value. And when you're a person of value, you will naturally get into the spaces where change makers, solutionnaires, people who are also trying to rewrite the narrative about the continent, you would be in those spaces and you would begin to have access to things that the average person out there doesn't see. You know, so what problems are you thinking of solving as a young person? So when I share this screen, if you look at the screen, you can see here we have leaders that are known for the problems they solve. Okay, so the very first person is Helen Keller. Helen Keller is somebody who has been known to be, I think she was born blind, deaf, and dumb, and she's written many books. She's a great disability rights advocate. And if you get to read about her story, you can begin to exactly know why she was really, really powerful and very relevant in the world that she lived. The next person is Martin Luther King. As we know, Martin Luther King basically wasn't just an activist, he was somebody who fundamentally fought for the justice and equity of everyone, especially the black people in the US. Of course, Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela wasn't just, a man who was also looking for social justice in the world, right? He was a man who truly lived what he believed. Aside the fact that he was responsible and one of the core people who was responsible for the end of apartheid in South Africa, he represented a cause that is beyond most people in the world, a cause for justice, a cause for love, a cause for harmony. We see Chimamanda Adichie, who is basically rewriting and transforming the narrative around, gender equity, feminism, and just name it, all the problems around women and girls empowerment, and all of that. You can see the great work she is doing. She's a novelist, she's a writer, and she does this with the power of the pen. The next person you can see there is Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi, of course, is from India, and he was known for the kind of problems he was solving around, building a more peaceful existence within his community and within his world. But there is something that I need everyone here who is watching this show to notice. When you look at this problem, when you look at these people, you can easily say one word that relates to each of these folks, right? Helen Keller, you can easily say disability inclusion. Mahatma Gandhi, you can easily say peacekeeping. Chimamanda Adichie, the next word that comes to mind is feminism, right? Nelson Mandela, social justice. Um, What's his name? Martin Luther King, social justice and equity in the US. So the next person I think should be on that list should be you. You, the person that is watching this right now. If they place your name, if they call your name, let's say your name is Henry, let's say your name is Mayowa, let's say your name is Kunle, your surname ideally shouldn't, I mean, this is just a cliche, your surname would be your surname, but within the development space, your surname should be the problem you're solving. So that when they think of Kunle, they think of education. When they think of John, they think of conflict resolution. When they think of Fidelis, they are thinking of leadership development. When they're thinking of Tosin, they are thinking of democratizing opportunities for folks. Whatever it is, your surname ideally should be, quote and unquote, and I'm quoting that surname, all right? Your surname should be the problems you're solving. And that is one thing that oftentimes makes some of these leaders distinguished and distinguishable from every other person. They don't just represent who they are as people, they represent the causes that matter most to others in the society. And so I came up with the PSVL model for solving problems and being a person of great impact and value within the space that you are operating. I call it the problem, solution, value, and impact model. I believe that some of the greatest problems in the world are opportunities for great wealth, for great value, and great solutions in the world. And as I said here, if we do not have problems, we can have solutions. To have solutions, we have to create value. And to create value, we must be people of impact. So let me take it again. You need problems to create solutions. Solutions lead to value, and value lead to impact. So whenever I have the opportunity to have like live workshops and trainings, oftentimes I ask folks, what is the most important component in this PCVL model? What is the most important component? Some people say impact, some people say solutions, but for me, I argue that problems are actually the most important things here, because when you have problems, problems are always opportunities for creating value in the world. Therefore, the mindset around problems shouldn't be that of avoidance, it should be that of taking it headlong, because without it, you can't have solutions. And without solutions, you can't create value. And without value, you can't make impact. So the question now to my viewers and to everyone there is, what problems are you solving? You know, what or whom are you advocating for? What causes are you standing for? What exactly do you represent? So when they think about John, what do they see? Is it John as per a fine boy, or John as per somebody who is fighting for the rights of persons with disabilities? Okay. What problems are you solving? And these questions, I know they sound a bit philosophical, but they are very basic questions. You are respected and given opportunities based on the value that you bring to the community. But to create value, you must be a person who is able to solve problems. In the interest of time, um, I want us to talk about this quickly. The advocacy mindsets. One of the secrets is the fact that the problem you solve is what brings value to the community. And once you understand the value that that brings to the community, that becomes your story. So this is what I'm trying to say. Look at your community. And I want to be, because again, people are saying that. So, how do we begin to identify what these problems are? How do we begin to know exactly what kind of things we're meant to be doing with our time, our resources as leaders? Trust me, Africa is a very fertile ground for problems. You would never run out of problems. There are more than enough, from governance to politics to community to climate awareness issues to unemployment to education to health issues to gender disparities to lack of access to quality care for mothers. Just name it. The problems are apparent there. All right. So the question now is, how then do you begin to identify the problems that you are specifically meant to solve? And how will you create value to the community that you live in? And how can you use that to sell yourself to the world in such a way that when they see you, the problem you solve or the value that you bring on board becomes your brand? That's very important. And that is the mindset of most of the people who we think have access to opportunities and we don't. There is a technical part definitely of having to write stories, write the essays and all of those things. All those things, I feel like that is not the most important thing. The most important thing is the power of your story, the power of the problem that you're solving, the power of the value that you're bringing on board. Very important. And that's why I call it the advocacy mindset. An average leader out there is an advocate. You're advocating for a cause. You are standing in for a set of people, a set of community, a set of tribe of people who, do not have access to some things. You are either speaking up for a set of people, you are either trying to create opportunities, you are an advocate, you are standing in for folks, right? So when you think about how best to, to be a person of value and to access opportunities, the mindset has to be right. You must be a person of great value. You must be thinking of how best to create value for the community of people you serve. But to create that value, you must be someone who is consistently doing all you can to solve problems. And my bad, I did mention this. The kind of problems that you should be solving are not just ordinary problems. They are what we call in the development balance and development space wicked problems. Problems that can have impact on not just one person, but a whole lineage, a whole tribe, a whole community. The difference between feeding a beggar, giving money to the beggar on the street, and creating jobs for the beggar to feed his whole family and community, they are both problems, or one is direct, one is systemic. Leaders are people who are very interested in solving systemic problems, what we call wicked problems. So I will go straight to the importance. And again, I'm coming back to how best to identify the kind of problems you're going to solve. But for the sake of those who are here and those who want to begin to think about, how to access global opportunities, I want to talk about the benefit first. The first is, this is me kidding anyway. You will shame your village people because for a good number of us within the African continent, when you japa, you are seen to be someone who has been successful. But that's a joke. What I mean by that is you would make your folks proud of you. Within the African landscape, we understand the importance of community living. And when somebody is really doing something that the community is proud of, that the nation is proud of, that your family is proud of, you'll be celebrated, right? You'll be recognized and you'll be given all the applause that you need. So I guess the point here is there is no magic, there is no demerits that comes with accessing international opportunities. The fact is that when you are able to access these things, right, you become a source of inspiration for the people that look up to you. All of a sudden, people begin to realize that they can do the things that you are doing. All of a sudden, they begin to realize that they can solve the kind of problems you're solving. All of a sudden, they realize that they can actually go global because you have done it, right? So you become a voice, you embody the aspiration of the people that you're serving and leading. Second is the fact that you have opportunities for professional developments. I'm so big on pro dev because um, there is no point being a person of value when you are not honestly clear about who you are as a person, your assets, your skill sets, your mindsets, and your heart sets. These things have to be known. You have to be self aware. Now, there's a 3D model that I always use in my training and development programs. I call it every human being has the role to discover who they are, develop their talents, their giftings and skills, and more importantly, deploy those skills, their personality, their skill sets, their mindsets, their heart sets to the world. It's very important. It's the 3D leadership model. Everyone has to develop who they are, discover who they are, rather, discover their talent, discover their potential. Very important. Don't worry about going to do everything for every other person. Your most important assignment as a young global leader or as a young person, as a young leader, is first and foremost discover who you are because that's when you begin to know the kind of problems you should be solving. Develop it. Development will mean things from, exposing yourself to a lot of reading, going for trainings, looking for mentorship programs, right? Um, Listen to podcasts, spend your time on YouTube, do everything you can to discover to develop that which you have discovered about yourself. And again, we can go into a whole session about how to discover your potential and how to develop those. But the most important aspect of that whole journey is to deploy, to use all those things that you have known and discovered, not just to make money, but to serve the community. Because when your skill sets, when your competences are not just about making money, but to serving people, the opportunities that comes with people and serving people begin to open. Okay. So professional development is very important. And I call it professional because the goal is to refine you to be very, very good at what you do, one or two things or three things that you do, so that you can be excellent at it. And when you're called to deliver, you deliver a very excellent job. Third is a change in perspective. When you have the opportunity to access international opportunities, there's always a change in perspective. Um, I have had the opportunity to travel to a couple of countries, a couple of continents, and I have said things differently. In fact, by virtue of that exposure, I began to appreciate Africa better. I began to appreciate Nigeria better. I began to appreciate some of the countries, my continental affiliation better, because you will see the world from a different perspective and you begin to see why we are where we are and where we should be. Um, one thing I've always believed as a young person who is very, very passionate about the African development is the fact that if we don't begin to think about changing our perspective to life, if we think all we have to do is just to make money, enjoy ourselves, and leave, then really we are not doing the best for the continent, right? A change of perspective is important. It's when you travel out, you get inspiration from, Europe, from the US, from Asia, whatever it is, and you see what these people are doing, how they're working very hard to create a more sustainable, organized society, thinking hundreds of generations from now. When you are exposed to some of these places and some of these experiences and teachings and ideas, you will begin to rethink how you see your continent and what your dreams and belief system should be around developing the African continent beyond just providing, little monetary values or whatever it is you're providing. How do you begin to build systemic solutions for the community of people that you serve? When you, of course, have the access to global opportunities, you build a powerful network. It's important to realize that to solve problems, to work with people, to build capacity, and basically to serve the community of people that you're serving, you can't do it alone. You need to build bridges. You can't work in silos. You need to build bridges. You need to work with the community of people to make that happen. You would also have the opportunity of learning new culture. I'm a person who believes that culture is very dynamic, but there's something we call local culture and global culture, right? There's a way the world runs. You have the opportunities to understand it. You will get to see the world from a different lens. You have access to international jobs. So there are many, many benefits that comes with accessing global opportunities. And people are quick to ask me, what exactly do these opportunities look like? It depends. It could be scholarship, it could be education, it could be fellowships, right? It could be having access to grants. It could be going to work with international organizations, right? I haven't happened currently I've had the opportunity to work with at least three international organizations, right? It could be that. Whatever it is opportunities look like, it could be basically looking for another citizenship somewhere else. But you see, one of the core things, and I'm quick to say this, especially for people who are leaders within the African continent, your idea of accessing those opportunities is basically to build the capacity to give back. That's the most important factor for you, whether it's access to schooling, whether it's access to fully funded scholarships, Commonwealth, Chevening, Atlas Core grants, whatever it is, right? The fundamental goal of all of these things you're going to get is to give back, and to give back in a very sustainable way. So again, as I said, this is the season of application. For some of you out there, I want to go quickly into the technical aspect of basically going about accessing these opportunities. There are always the first seasons of these applications. We're in fall, so we're spring right now, so there are spring applications right now. Um, Please make sure that you begin to use the information that you have to access those opportunities, because information, as they say, is power. If you don't have information, you'll be deformed. That's what people say. But for me, I believe that when you have the right information, you can work with it. The first and foremost is the fact that we're in the seasons of applications right now. There are a lot of opportunities out there. And in a bit, I'll take us through some of the places where we can get some of those opportunities. International opportunities come in the form of, as I said, fellowship and exchange programs, international business and investment for those who are into international business and investments, scholarship, grants, jobs, volunteering. But the greatest opportunity, as I said, is the opportunity to serve others on a global scale. The greatest opportunity is the opportunity to serve others on a global scale. Very important. So if you're interested in applying for any of these things, um, I want to quickly take us through and briefly, in the interest of time, right? As I said, once the mindset is right, you have a problem that you're solving, you have a solution you're bringing on board, you have the value you're creating, and you can understand what your impact is. You can craft that as a story, and you can brand yourself as somebody who embodies a solution, who embodies a problem, a solution to that problem, high value from that solution that you're bringing on board, and you can make impact, right? The next most important skill and I'm going to skills right now, is the art of storytelling and the art of writing. You see, I don't know of any application that you have to do by just talking. 89% of the applications we have in the world right now is you have to go online, apply for those things, and submit a proposal, submit your essays. That is the basic, right? Whether it's a scholarship, you need a personal development, what's it called? Motivation letters, you need a personal statement, um, whatever opportunities it is that you're accessing, you need to know how to tell your story. So fundamentally, right, I tell folks, and basically we can have a whole workshop on this, but the art of crafting the right stories that can help you access those opportunities is the most important skill you need to develop as a young leader who wants to go global. How to tell your story through oral forms and written forms. I know it sounds very basic, but you'll be surprised how people overlook this. And in my interaction with a lot of leaders in the development space, the common denominator amongst all of these people is that these people are very good storytellers and they're good in writing, especially. Some of them might not be very good in speaking, right? But they're very good in writing. And when you're a very good writer and you're good at articulating the value that you bring within the development space to a community of people that will probably give you whatever it is you're looking for, you'll be an asset. And so I said that you have to be an artist. An artist is someone who is very, very smart and understand the art of creating things, right? For you, and based on my theory here, your artistry is to begin to understand what problems you're solving, the solution you're bringing on board, the value you're creating, and the impact it's going to make in the world, in the community that you're serving. Take, for instance, and again, before we get to the other 3 points, look at the Sustainable Development Goals. They're about 17. You want to work on, let's say, quality education, goal 4. And you want to work on specific metrics, let's say, um, goal 4, yes. And we talk about what's it called? Yeah, go 4 and the tiers, because you have go 1, go 2, go 3, go 4, and all of that. But there are goals and there are specifically points that you can use to, if you go online, just Google Sustainable Development Goals, right? The goals and the points and all the track records and all the track to know what those goals are. For goal 4, you have things on learning, inclusive learning, quality education, girl child education, um, skill sets, training and development, teacher development. There's so many data points for that particular goal. Pick one of those and begin to articulate the problem that you will be solving. That's a first and a very easy way to do it, right? Create a solution around whatever problems that you've identified. And by the way, you won't be the first to create solutions around this. Look at what other people are doing, right? Create a value around the solution you're developing, right? And begin to use that as a metric to make impact in the community. Now, when you're able to start and follow that process, your job is now beginning to be an advocate for the solutions that you're bringing on board. You have to start being a storyteller. You have to start talking about the solutions you're bringing on board. Leverage social media, leverage public speaking platforms, leverage virtual platforms, leverage many platforms, right? And begin to create stories around this. But more importantly, because you want to access global opportunities, begin to tell that same story in a very formalized and very, very clear way through application processes. Maybe scholarships, grants, fellowships, just name them. There are many of them out there. And that's why I said you have to be an artist, because an artist understands how to carve out things and to present them to people, to make them beautiful, to make them acceptable, and to make them investable. Next is to really solve problems and understand the impact of the work that you're doing. There's something we call metrics and data points. So, for instance, you're solving a problem around education. What community is that problem being solved? What part of education is it? Is it adult learning or child learning? You have to be specific. What are the demography of people that you're solving this problem for? Are you trying to empower young girls to be more educated, or young boys to be more educated, or teenagers between, let's say, 11 to 19? You have to be specific about the data and the people that you're trying to solve these problems for. Talk about now the next will be what kind of content are you developing? Are you creating alternative learning systems where you'll be creating maybe say mentorship programs for people to complement their educational programs, or are you supporting teacher development for this community of people that you're serving, right? So you have to streamline specifically all the kind of problems and all the demography of people that you're working for or you're going to be serving, and be able to articulate the impacts of your solution to that community. And that's why I said you need data and you need metrics. You will need this when you're applying for grants, for fellowships, and all of those things. And you will need it when you're doing your storytelling, whether to an investor or to whoever it is that will be giving you the opportunity that you're looking for. The third um, icon here says that you have to identify your why and connect it to the organization's what. And this is what I mean. Nobody just goes to the community to really want to give back if they're not very passionate about it. And I'm happy to let you know that in that first piece, that first P, I talked about the 3D leadership model, the discovery part, self discovery. Oftentimes, there are many things you need to discover about yourself, but the most important thing is to discover the problem you were born to solve. It's very important. And oftentimes, the problem you're born to solve is oftentimes connected either to your pain points or to some what is a not so pleasant experience you had maybe as somebody who was growing up. So you see that some of the greatest people who are into, let's say, gender activism are people who probably suffered a lot in that regard. I have a friend who is one of the top persons in Nigeria right now, advocating for sickle cell awareness. And that's because she's somebody who is proud to be a survivor, right, of sickle cell. I have somebody who is so great on creating, quality education for people out there, and that's because he was able to, have access to mentorship, to learnings that helped him become, one of the best in his class, and he got scholarships for that, right? So you have to understand why you are solving that problem and what you want to be known for. Ability to articulate that is very important. And as I said, when you connect your why to the organization's words, then you guys are speaking a very good language. You're speaking the language that both of you want to identify. And in the interest of time, I'll go to the next one. You have to write in simple language, but in a very emotional way. So all of this that I'm teaching you basically and providing the resource for you here is basically the art of writing. Because after all is said and done, when you have come up with your project, your analysis, your ideas, and whatever it is you're doing, you have to be able to articulate them in clear, simple language, but in a language that will pique the interest and touch the hearts of the readers of your application, whatever that looks like. So again, as I said, some online resources where you can get this: profellow.com, Opportunity Desk, Divex.com, Funds for NGOs, Opportunities for Africans, Youth Up, OYA opportunities, and many more. There are a whole lot of them out there. There are some focused on education, some focused on climate, some focused on future of work and technology, some focused on peace and conflict. Depending on what problems you're solving, there is something for you out there. If you're looking for international jobs, there are international non-profits that are working in your area of work. There are a lot of folks working in that regard. So there's a whole lot. You just need to, as I said, you the you just need to identify and know exactly the problems you're solving, the solution you're bringing on board, the value that that will create, and the kind of impact into making the world. Tell that story using oral forms and especially written forms, and you see where the sky is going to take you from there. So thank you very much. I know in the interest of time, I've taken a lot of the time, but I thought this were some of the ideas that I wanted to share with you. I'm looking forward to taking questions and comments from this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so Thank you so much, Fidelis. That was a very insightful and very, very well thought out presentation. So many highlights from the presentation that you just shared with us. And I know that everyone can attest to this who is currently tuned in. Thank you so much for your time, Fidelis. And we
A pleasure.
truly do appreciate it. I so much love how you created that model
Yeah.
in the
Yes.
four
Yes.
way model that
Yes.
says problem, solution,
Value
value, and
and
impact.
impact. Yeah.
So powerful, so powerful. And I just love how again You just in simple terms articulated the importance of how you must interconnectedly,
Yes.
interpret your value offering across these four parts
Yes.
of the model. Thank
Yep.
you so much.
You're welcome.
Very,
And
very
again, just to
insightful.
interject quickly, for those who are in the business space, you just need to um, substitute the impact for wealth. It's the same model. If you solve extremely great problems, you create solutions around them, you create value, you make money. It's that easy, right? So it's the same thing, and that's why I said sometimes people just need to understand exactly their whys and connect it to the organization's words or to people's word. And trust me, wealth comes with that, opportunities come with that, doors begin to open. You'll be surprised at the kind of things that will come your way if you're just able to articulate what problems you're solving, what solution you're bringing on board, the kind of value you're creating, and the magnanimous impact it's making in the world. Or for those who are looking for money or looking for millions of dollars of grants, the magnanimous impact that can make in the business landscape. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Fidelis, for the powerful thoughts you've shared with us tonight. So I would throw the floor open to everyone, our audience who are currently tuned in, to type in the comment section questions that are maybe currently tugging in their hearts. Just type in the comment sections. While at the same time, we already have some curated questions, which I will
Mhm.
be sharing with Fidelis already. So ahead of that, I look forward to reading from you. So type in the comment section your questions. Fidelis is readily available
Yes,
to
please.
answer them tonight.
Yeah,
Thank you so much once again. Very powerful and insightful presentation. Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
All right. So I love how you highlighted the fact that when it comes to solving any wicked problem within this space,
Yep.
number one, you must be a person of value.
Right.
Value meets solution.
Yes.
Value meets solution. That's what you have highlighted. And
Yes.
that's so powerful. So this takes me to this. This takes me to this, to my question. So we know of many, many young African leaders
Mhm.
who are seeking ways to expand their skill sets, competencies, and knowledge in terms of seeking global opportunities. What advice would you render to such persons? I know you have highlighted various opportunity platforms where
Right.
they can interact, and you have also, again tonight, highlighted how you can leverage the artistic skill of writing across these four pillars or the four model approach that you
Right.
shared with us. So,
Right.
but nonetheless, I just want you to go pragmatic. You can share a story,
Right.
because you are, as a person, you're not where you were. You
Right.
have grown, you have upskilled, you have
Right.
improved yourself, you have enhanced in your competencies. How did you
Right.
make this happen?
Yeah.
So, we'd like to hear that.
Um, and that's a very lovely question. I would go straight to it. So the first thing I'm always very quick to talk about when it comes to building your capacity really to be a person of influence and value is first and foremost um, coming to terms with who you were and who you will become. And this is what I mean. And I'll tie that to my personal story. You as leaders who are very much interested in solving, complex problems and basically being people of value, um, you have to have an identity. You will need to have what I call a brand. And your brand, and I'm not talking about this from a corporate perspective. I'm talking about it from the problems that you embody, the problem that you went through and overcame. Very importantly. So my personal story is, growing up I lived in a community where there was a lot of, under resourcing. I went to a private school and a public school, right? So I understood the needs of young people who were in a private setting. For instance, peer pressure within a private setting is all about your phone. I have an Android, you have, you have an iPhone, you know, you have an iPhone 10, I have an iPhone 12. Your mom drives Bugatti, my mom drives Bentley, and because of their problems are what I call big people's problem. And so because of that, they suffer a lot of inferiority within those landscapes and spaces. Their problems are not the same with the young person who is in a public setting, who is just trying to look for money to pay his school fees. He every time, end of the time, he has to bring his locker, and lock it so that they don't come and steal the chairs. He's trying to read. When he gets home, he has to go hawk and sell things on the road just to make money. He comes back and he still has to perform within that space. You look at the resources within the school setting, it's really hot. There are no, training materials, there are no writing materials, educational um, support and all of that are not there. So I lived in those two communities. So I went to a private school and went to a public school, and I could identify with the problems and the worries of, the rich, quote and unquote, and the problems and the worries of the young. And
Mm,
that in itself began to make me rethink how best to begin to solve those problems that young people go through for
mm,
me as a person. But to do that, I just knew that there was a problem. And this is not fair. I see a lot of my friends as at then who were, not having the best of outcome. They have all the resources, they have all the training, but they don't have all the, when it comes to academics, they're not really performing. And, a lot of them suffer things like, low self-esteem. They have peer pressure issues, so for some superiority complex and, all of that. But I realized that what causes inferiority complex in a public school is not what causes inferiority complex in a private school. But the truth is, they all suffer from one sort of inferiority complex or the other. So, as a young person, then I thought that it was important for me to begin to think about how to build the capacity of young people to be confident in themselves, to be
mm,
successful, and not just to wait on whatever it is, whatever circumstances that are provided, whether extremely good circumstances or extremely bad circumstances. And that's because at some point I also, suffered some kind of lack. Going to school and not having all I needed to be resilient to make it, right? And staying in that private school, I saw how the competition was so high. And I was like, I couldn't meet up with these guys, right? But I needed to succeed. I needed to be somebody who would be a person of substance within those spaces. So what I began to do was I began to create reading clubs, and not just books that are academic. I began to create clubs where people can at least we'd have once in 3 months, self-help leadership books where this would expand the mindset of these young persons to begin to see beyond the educational outcome and begin to believe in themselves. I formed those reading clubs, and before I it was a group of like 7 folks in a public school setting, and WAEC came. Most of them passed, and when we went to the principal, he said no, that we share that we had all sorts of what is it called, cheat codes to make that happen. So what we did then was NECO GC, and I said no, it's not true. You see, the problem with you teachers and the problem with you administrators is that you don't believe in the capacity and the potential of the students. And because the narration and the narrative you've given the student that they will never succeed, that the school is cursed, and that you guys are just wasting your time, that is terrible. And these things have a rippling effect on the lives of these people. So I needed to first of all change the mindset of these young people about what it means to be successful, that irrespective of those narrative of that environment that you find yourself, you can succeed. And I proved that. They became a good number of them. At least 80% of them did well in their NECO. Then when we did WAEC, 100%, 7 of us did extremely well. Most of them got scholarship to get into university, and now most of them are not just doing well academically. Some of them are leading non-profits, some of them have startups, some of them are traveled out and coming back, of course, to the continent to give back. They are leaders. They're not just academic people, scholars, right? The beauty of that trajectory and that story is oftentimes the the desire to really really discover the problem you're solving is coming. It has to come from a pain point. It's very important. You have to be angry about something, and that then has to affect you in some way or the other. It may not be you directly, it could be your friends, it could be your family, it could be. And that's why I tell people that problems are not things that you should run from. In fact, when you do an analysis of who you are as a person, take some notes down and look at there. We have normalized abuse in Nigeria, and it's very sad, right? But there are some things that you have suffered from and has recalled many times. For some, it's gender-based violence. For some, it's lack of access to economic resources, money, poverty. For some, it is inferiority complex. For some, it is whatever that looks like. What is that thing that has recurred consistently in your life, but you have been able to walk through and overcome? You might be surprised that that is the exact thing you're supposed to be doing with your life. Whether it is working in a non-profit, finding your own NGO, working in a private sector, you should be solving that problems which you suffer the most. And so I can begin to give people tools and resources on how to develop themselves, how to come about professional development. I can give you read these books, go and learn podcasts, get a PDP, a professional and personal development plan. All those things are technical things. But the most important thing is you have to be convinced that this is a problem you are born to solve because you suffered it and you overcame it. That for me is the first model to discover exactly what you should be doing. The moment you discover what that is, then begin to professionalize the skill set you need to solve that problem. For instance, you see people who are working, for instance, in creating wealth for folks. If you go
mm.
read their story, they were people who probably suffered, had a lot of poverty issues,
Very true.
and
Yeah.
so they're doing all they can to make sure that that doesn't happen either to them or to the generation that will be born, right?
Mm,
That would that problem is what makes you very passionate about what you're doing.
That's right.
You know, it is that passion that will lead you through even to the end of time. And so even if they give you $1 million today, it is not as fulfilling as solving that problem you were born to solve, right? And so that's why I said, I don't like to be very, very I don't like to think that I have a very unconventional way to approaching this, right? So for people to begin to discover themselves as leaders in this sector, right? Leadership basically, I tell people if you can't lead yourself, you shouldn't be leading anyone. The most important person you should lead is yourself. And self-leadership comes from a place of true authenticity. And authenticity is being able to identify your greatest problems, your greatest vulnerabilities. And you have the job of going through that problem and healing. It's very important. If you're damaged, you can't solve the problems for other people. In my case, I had mentorship. All right. I had someone who mentored me through that process and he gave me access to a lot of books, access to a lot of trainings, and it changed the whole paradigm. So I became very
Mm.
passionate about this. And that's why I'm always doing everything to make sure I build the capacity of young people to be successful because that is one thing I lived and I've overcome. And that is one thing that is paving the way for me in all that I do. So self discovery is very important, but you have to identify with your personal pain.
I love it. I love how you again are just going back to the fact that first and foremost is really understanding who you are,
Right.
coming to terms with your identity, and in the process of that self-discovery, you are unearthing solutions
Right.
that are hidden on the inside of you.
Hmm.
And I love again how you then emphasize that through that journey of discovery, you didn't walk through that journey alone.
Right.
You had mentorship. And
Right.
that's why we do what we do at Ideation of Africa,
Right.
extending that frontier to
Right.
change makers, early stage change makers, and non-profit professionals
Yeah.
to really, get the learnings, really understand what is required, the tools, the resources, empower them so that they can really start, sustain, and scale those big ideas.
Mm.
And I just love how, again, you are just emphasizing this. Thank you so much, Fidelis, for the
Welcome.
very powerful thoughts. Now, this moves me to my next question. I can see already there are questions in the comment section, and we will definitely take them in a bit.
Yeah.
This question goes first. It says, with increasing trust deficit
Mhm.
in business, how can a fledgling social enterprise in Nigeria build trust at the national and international levels to
Right.
be able to leverage on available resources for support?
Yeah, excellent question. So the first thing I always talk about when it comes to development, and again, I'm tying into my 3D model. Um, when I'm talking about self-development, I'm also talking about organizational growth. A company, a social enterprise, a startup has to understand why it exists in the first place, what problems it's
Yes.
trying to solve, and more importantly, what values it wants to sell to the world. As I said, money naturally follows the right values. Okay.
Very
So
true.
when you have startups or social enterprises that want to solve problems for the world, they have to think about what is their value. Are you somebody who is your startup very, very passionate about creating a world that is inclusive for folks? Then there is money that will go into. There's a lot of diversity and equity and inclusion, intersectionality. There's a lot of grants in that space. If
Mm,
you are somebody who is so passionate about creating quality education for folks, there are a lot of opportunities from British
mm,
Council, Commonwealth. There are a lot, right? So social enterprises just need to identify specifically their greatest value. And in
mm,
company, of course, in a company culture, for some of us who know there are so many. Some people just write it and they don't understand what it means. You see people hearing things like empathy, resourcefulness. I think
mm,
people need to be true. Just have one or two values that you stand for, so that once they see this organization, once they see
mm.
Ideation Hub, they think of capacity building. It's
Yes.
you know, it's don't make it too complex for your donors or for your investors or your stakeholders or your partners to be able to identify exactly what you stand for. Let it be so clear that in your value statement, in your social media branding, in your colors, in your programs, in your projects, in your portfolios, right? That value is transparent in everything. Um, I happen to be one of the beneficiaries of Tony Emilu Foundation. And for some of us, we know what he's very clear about it, right? We are building entrepreneurs for Africa. That's it. It's you see, you don't need to talk too much grammar. I know our daddy Joe is talk about Africa capitalism, tollway, and everything, but centrally, the message is very simple. He's investing in the next generation of African entrepreneurs for Africans to help the African continent. Very
Mm.
clear thing. And you can understand there's so many values that comes from that, right? He will get
Yes.
partnerships, he will get resources, right? And to be
Mm-hmm.
honest, social enterprises just need to identify specifically models. And this is my second tip. Copy till
Mm.
you become. God rest his soul. Bon King, one of the great leaders and mentors, within the business and leadership space in Nigeria.
Mm.
He said, copy till you become. And he's not saying it in a very negative light. He's saying it from a very, very sincere, positive light. What he's saying
Mm.
is that there is no idea in the world that is new.
Mm. That's
You
right.
just need to understand what problems you want to solve as a social enterprise or a startup. There are organizations within your continent or in another continent that is already doing the specific thing you want to do. Your job is to know what your USP is, your unique selling points as a social enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
Adapt, look at what they are doing differently, incorporate that into what you're doing, and come
Mm.
up with a new thing. That's innovation,
Yeah.
basically. Innovation is not just coming up with something new, it's sometimes just improving on processes and adapting
Processes.
things.
Very true.
Exactly. Right? So my two answers to this is, first and foremost, social enterprises have to be true to their values.
Very.
Communicate that from a business landscape and let people understand why you exist in the first place. The moment you begin to make that clear and you're loud about it, the right people would come from investment, scaling, whatever it is. The next is, if you're not sure of how best to make that happen, go and copy. And when I mean copy, I'm not talking about copycatting. I'm talking about
Yes.
study
Study.
businesses, startups that are already doing what it is you want to do and leverage from that.
I love it. I love again how you are emphasizing the importance of value alignment,
Right.
really understanding what you stand for as an organization, what you hold there, and ensure you sell those values to the world.
Yeah.
Be very unashamed
Right.
about what you stand for. And I love the second point saying, we're not saying be a copycat,
Right.
but you really need to carry out research. That's
Research.
what you're
Right.
saying in plain terms. You need to be data driven. You need to go back, do the groundwork, find out what has existed, unearth these things, and then from in the midst of you researching, researching doesn't mean searching again, something that
Yes.
already exists.
Hmm.
So you're just simply searching again till you hit that jackpot or that gold mine. So thank you so much, Fidelis, for the very powerful points. So
Welcome.
there's another question that
Hmm.
goes thus. It says, what are the potential risks of for a young entrepreneur or a young African leader accessing global opportunities, and how can the pitfalls be avoided?
Right. Um, in terms of risk, and again, for some of us who are a bit aware of what risk analysis is, yeah, um, y- y- some of us have understood the business landscape, but it's something called the SWOT analysis, right? There's a strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats. Okay. An average entrepreneur within the African continent already has to fight a lot because the environment is not very conducive.
Very true.
And again, I'm not trying to sabotage us. I'm just trying to say that this is a reality check. I've had the opportunity of working in the US and I'm here in Europe right now. You just need to do basic things and you begin to see results. It's simply because there's an environment that makes entrepreneurs thrive. So the first and foremost is that understand that you're going to be fighting in a landscape that is not very conducive. That's on the downside. But the greatest risk for you is not executing an idea
Hmm.
that has been disturbing you and forgoing it for whatever reasons, either because Nigeria Nigeria is not very conducive or the spaces are not very conducive, as I said. And I don't want to speak too technically about some of the processes and programs that comes with being an entrepreneur and what it is you have to do, having your business canvas, all those things are beautiful, right? But the greatest risk is not coming up with that solution that would have not just solved problem for you, but solve problems for generations to come.
Hmm.
I'll mention some examples. Imagine, for instance, someone like Otto Orodam, Slums to School, just decided not to come up with that idea. Someone who is basically just trying to get people from the slums and taking them to school. The magnanimous work he's doing in that space is amazing.
Hmm.
One of my great mentors, Emeka Osai, Campus Labs, just basically very simple model, giving university undergraduates employability, mindset, and skill sets so that they can be work proof, future proof, and be employable. And a good number of them he's had many graduates right now, and they're not just working in the corporate side. Some of them have become business owners, some have become startup founders, right? Um, Idemose and his wife, right? She came up with Mayan. Mayan is basically also, rethinking how education should be within the Nigerian landscape, basically. So many startups. My friend, of course, Ideation Hub, you guys are doing amazing, amazing job.
Thank you.
Imagine you guys deciding not to do this. We won't be having this conversation. There are many
Yeah.
people who will not benefit from these things that you're providing. Just imagine. So for me, we can talk about risk analysis from the part of, oh, whatever investment, your return on investment, all those things are beautiful. But the why is key. The greatest risk is not working on that thing that you have burning in your heart to do and basically launching it to the world. Greatest risk is basically letting an idea die in you. And I tell
Mm,
people it's very important to think about that deeply. Most times when God gives you an idea, it's not for you, it's for a population of people that you have to serve. And so that's why I said entrepreneurs, what makes you an entrepreneur is that you're a person of vision, you're a
mm-hmm.
person of mission, but more importantly, you have a foresight that is based on insights.
Inside.
It's very important. And that insight is the most important thing. So your risk is not deploying that which has been placed in you. And when
Mm,
you don't do it, fulfillment may be very hard for you.
mm.
You will do many things, but you might not truly be happy.
Very
And
true.
so for me, I'm coming from the landscape of a very, very generalistic person. You might not be successful. So entrepreneurs need to begin to rethink how they solve problems. They have to solve problems that is coming from a place of authentic vision bearing. This is not just because I want to make money or I want to raise investments, I want to raise capital. Those are secondary. The most important reason why you exist is to solve people's problem. And the moment you are delivering that, you'll realize that no matter how much you make as an entrepreneur, nothing is as satisfying as seeing the lives of those that you're affecting positively. So that for me is the greatest risk. And I think people should mitigate that.
Mm. I love it. I love it. I love it. So you're saying this is like the greatest pitfall.
Yes.
Really, this is the
Yep.
greatest pitfall. This is what
Yep.
can cause you to trip, not
Yes.
operating from that authentic place of visioning,
Right.
that idea, that solution for that problem, or really carrying an authentic burden for
Right.
that problem. I love
Yes.
it. Thank you
And more
so much, Phyllis.
so if you don't mind, by extension, what that means is that the moment you lose track with the vision, because once you birth it, you have to keep the vision clear.
Clear. Very
If
true.
you have been sent to help persons with disabilities, and because there is money in climate change, you
You're
now
shaking
start,
the table.
well, with all respect to everybody working in that space,
Mhm.
focus on the people you have been called to serve.
Very true.
I tell people, you don't see wealth would come when you are doing your job. I tell
Very
people, when you are in your place of primary assignments, the natural resources and the everything you need within that space would come. But when you are following the money, and I don't mean to play on words here, when you are
Yeah.
following only the money because that's all that matters, in no time you'll fade out. And that's what happens. There was a business, I think a business, I think it was on Forbes, that there's a reason why most startups don't, survive 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not because these guys are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, but it's simply because you see that picture, that vision is very
Vision.
important. And because of that, if the vision is very compelling and passionate, every other processes from developing your business plan, hiring the right team, understanding the stakeholders that you have to work with, connecting with the right community of people that you have to work with, um, grants, all those things naturally would come because the vision is very compelling. So the risk is first, not betting it. Secondly, betting it and losing track.
Mission track. I love it. Very powerful points shared. Thank you so much, Fidelis. Now, I want us to quickly take Angela's question.
Okay.
Angela just posted a question in the comment section, which goes first. Says, how do you cope with rejection
Right.
after having put in a lot of effort in putting applications for grants and scholarships?
Excellent. And that question, I relate to it personally. I should have said that before I got into some of these fellowships and stuff, I had many rejections, many, many. In fact, um, I started going internationally just in 2019, to be honest. And
Mm,
I've been in development space rather from about 2014. Yes, right from 2013 actually, officially. Because back in
mm,
school, what I was just doing basically was helping with volunteering works, helping leadership programs, being I did a lot of extracurricular programs, but when I got into the full-time development space, when I started my nonprofit, started volunteering with a lot of nonprofits, working with the U.S. Department of State to execute projects for free, yearly hubs, working in communities, helping schools, going to schools to do trainings, capacity development, mindset reshaping, leadership programs, all for free. you know, my thought and process wasn't I wasn't doing this because I wanted to japa or because I wanted to access fellowship. I was doing this because I understood exactly the pains of these people I was serving. I knew
Mm.
it. And that's why even all the resources I've had and all of those when I had it then, I used it on that. Some of my friends said, Fidelis, you finished as one of the best in your class. You should be working with First Bank or with Shell or Chevron and make it. And I'm like, guys, man, see, all fingers are not equal, and there are different strokes for different folks. Waiting they chase you, not be waiting they chase me. Waiting I they chase, not be waiting they chase, right? For some people, they don't have that. But the greatest risk is when God has given you a vision and a dream and you don't birth it, you will be a slave of those things for life, right? And
Mm.
for me, I didn't want to risk it. So whether I liked it or yes, I had to deliver it. I had to. So for me, it was about a life on mission. And so when I began to apply for these scholarships, fellowships, and all of that, I was getting rejections. Two things were happening. I was building competence in my storytelling.
Mm. I love it. I
I
love
was
it.
Because for me, it wasn't about getting that thing. It was about
Mm.
crafting and crafting. I was building, and you see, most of the things, the tips I shared here was come down. I was building competence in my art of storytelling because I knew that the reason why I wasn't selected wasn't because I'm not good enough. It's simply because I have not communicated my value in a way that meets the standard of those who want to get me on board. So
Very
that was the
true.
first mindset, and it helped me a lot. So when I get rejections, I say, "Oh well, I have an opportunity to grow." So it's a mindset
Mm.
of
I
growing,
love it.
right?
Mm.
So that mindset was what really helped me. That was the first. Secondly, I realized that rejections basically are not meant, um, as I said, in one of my trainings with, I think, yeah, I had this with some mentees. There's a difference between failing and being a failure.
Mm.
Okay, so there's a huge difference. When you're a failure is when you decide not to try anymore.
Very true.
But when you fail, you really never lose because you learn in the process. Okay.
Very true.
So that mindset has guided me. And imagine me going to public schools to train people about how to be very resilient. And I'm not talking about how to fail forward. And I'm not talking about how to, be be ready for the challenges that comes in this world. We are people of the streets. We have survived many things. So the list is rejection mails. The list of worries is rejection mails. However, it's important first and foremost to understand that you have to on these processes are meant to prune you. So see it as a pruning, as a refining process. That's the first. Secondly, um, you have to manage your expectations.
Mm.
And when you apply for these things, be hopeful, but don't put all your eggs there. Because I believe in cosmic energy and I believe in God of the universe. Sometimes that's not what God wants for you or what the universe wants for you. Sometimes, right? But you have to give your try and make sure that you're making the request known. So managing expectation for me, and that's how I cope, and I hope this will help people out there, is when you make this application, don't expect that you'll be selected. Just do it and be proud that you have finished the application. As I said, the fact that you finished the application is already a lot of success. The
I love
fact that
it.
you went through it and
I love
finished and
it.
submitted, you don't win. Whether or not they choose you, you have won because
That one
yes, the greatest person you have to outperform is yourself.
is yourself. I love it.
So that mindset, as I said, the mindset is what has helped me. So for folks there who are getting all these rejections and all of that, think about it from many perspectives, right? Learn in the process. Understand that expectations have to be managed. Thirdly, know that after all is said and done, there might be other opportunities for you. And for those who really want to be very proactive about it, learn from those who have gotten it, right? Because that fourth tip would really help. I remember having folks where I had to drop my applications with them and told them, guys, I've done this many times. This is not working. I'm excited about the opportunity because I know that if I get on this platform, it will accelerate the impact of the work I'm doing back at home.
Mm.
I need help. And some of those people who have been through the program and they can easily help you review your application, give you one or two feedback, and help you with some of the resources you need, right? So if you leverage those tips, hopefully you'll be able to deal with any rejections that come in the course of applying for stuff.
I love it. I just love how, you can just see the highlights from a lot of
Right.
our audience. Exactly.
Yeah.
I love how you flipped the script
Right.
literally to just say the rejections are coming, but this is a pruning process.
Right.
This is a refining process.
Right.
This is a growth opportunity
Yeah.
for me to grow my skills,
Right.
grow my competencies, and grow my mindset.
Absolutely.
Powerful.
Thank
And
you.
I just love again how you now also say you're saying that in that process also leverage those that have attained successful opportunities and
Sure.
find out what
Absolutely.
worked, what did they do differently that stood them out and all of that. And I think that would take me to my next question. Could you also share with us tips of how you now began to successfully
Right.
attain or access those global opportunities?
Yeah.
Let's just take that question before I move on
Yeah.
to a question a one of our audience members is
Yeah.
asking.
And I'm sorry I didn't mention that, that when I finally got into these opportunities, I got to appreciate them.
Love it.
Because that's, and I said, some people get into opportunities they are not ready for, and therefore they cannot harness the lifetime of the opportunity in the opportunity of that lifetime. I'll say it again.
Mm,
The opportunity of a lifetime has to be harnessed in the lifetime of that opportunity. What that
mm,
means is that if
powerful.
it is only 1 week you have, or let me say 1 minute you have to meet President Barack Obama, you have 1 minute, and in that minute, anything can happen. What would you do?
Mm,
Sometimes in life, you might have been prepared 30 years for a 1 minute opportunity. But you see, that 1 minute opportunity can convert all your experiences from 30 before to the 30 after.
after.
So folks need to begin to understand that most times these rejections are preparatory and they're basically making you ready for the real thing. So when I got into these opportunities, people said, "This guy, you are hungry." I said, "You won't understand where I'm coming from." Some people, for them, when I got into the Atlas Cop Fellowship, for people who were just going to the US and have fun, take pictures, shame your village people. I made it, I've jackpot, and all those things, which is good and good for them. But for me, I was looking for capacity development. I was networking with the right people. I was, you notice that you read in my profile, I got 3 fellowships in one fellowship.
Coaching.
And
Yeah.
some of my fellows were like, "Guy, it be like say you get kulu." I say, "You will not understand. Where I'm coming from is not where you are coming from. And what I've gone through to come into this program is not what you have gone through." Right? So that's why I said the moment you pay the price for the prize, you will definitely enjoy the benefits that comes with getting into such programs. I'm speaking from experience.
I love
So
it.
to the question of, what are the tips that people can now begin to leverage, to access some of these opportunities, global opportunities. I think the most important tip, as I've said, is be a very good writer. A
Yes.
very good writer. You'll be surprised how something as basic as that is the most important factor for applying. Be a very
Yes.
good writer. Practice the art of storytelling. And I'm not just talking about storytelling um, in terms of, because again, storytelling is a whole thing. There's storytelling for change, there's storytelling for development, there's a whole, I'm sure probably you must at some point, maybe you have or you will at some point talk about that. But
Yes. Very true.
very good. My intention and what I mean by storytelling here is how to tell the story and the value of the problems that you're solving in a very clear, concise way that meets the needs of the people that want to invest in you. For instance, if, for instance, Ideation Hub Africa comes up with a fellowship, let's call it, or let me call it IHA Social Impact Fellowship, all right?
Mm,
And we're looking only for folks who are very passionate about mentoring. If you go and write stories about climate change, respect to climate change advocates, about gender equity and all of that, you might not get very high scores. But if you talk about having mentored people in that space, you will get the attention of this program.
I love it.
Do you understand?
That's true.
So you have to learn the art of tailoring your writing to the needs of the organization that you're applying for, be it school, funding, grants, fellowships, even jobs. I know people who have gotten jobs right from Nigeria. They did interview in Nigeria, and as soon as they got the job, the company paid for their relocation, their visa, their housing, their wives, everything, simply because this person was speaking the language of the investor.
Hmm.
And by investor, I mean either the people whether it's Atlas Core, whether it's Mandela Washington, whether it's Tony Emini, whatever the organization is, there is a language that they have. Your job is to tie your story, whatever
Story.
solution you bring to world, to tie it into their most important value or most important requirement, and you'll get their attention. That's how it is. That's business too. If you're not customer centric, you might not solve a lot of problems. You might
So
not get the
love
attention of people, right?
it.
You have to understand exactly what they want and what they're looking for, then tie your story and write excellently well. I think for young Africans, we need to learn the arts of literacy in storytelling. And I'm not just talking about literacy as per A, B, C, D, and E. People say a lot of things, but there are relevant things you need to learn how to write. As I said, learn how to tell your story, your why, understand, use metrics, use data, talk about the impact, talk about them in numbers, talk about
Very
what value those impacts will make for the organization because it's not you. You have to sell. You are
true.
selling. You
Yeah.
know, I have 6 years professional development in beats making. If I join the organization, I will train 1 million persons to make 1 billion beats. I will make sure that you have access. You even be telling them opportunities that they have not seen because what you're saying is the solution you carry within you, you're bringing it on board, and in the invest to you, there will be a ripple effect and multiple effects. So I guess to sum it, we just need to learn the art of writing and crafting our story in a very clear, concise, and very emotionally appealing way. And once you learn that art, it's one great factor that will distinguish you from any other success factor.
I love it. I love it. Again, you're tied to the power of storytelling.
Correct.
Just really the ability to tell your story, the story of your organization, in such a way that it connects and not just connects with the organization, but
Right.
really speaking to the needs of that organization, aligning with their values,
Right.
and solving or meeting the needs
Yes.
or expectations of the funding organization or this
Yeah.
organization
Yeah.
sponsoring a scholarship.
Scholarships.
So
Yeah.
there needs to be that alignment. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Peter Liz,
Yeah.
once again for the very powerful thoughts.
Yeah.
So someone here is saying, thanks for the enlightening session.
Yeah.
Kindly shed more light on what fellowships are all about.
Okay. So fellowships are a bit different from scholarships, and scholarships are a bit different from grants and international fellowships. Basically, are most times international professional development opportunities. And the goal is basically to bring you on board, to train you a particular skill set, and connect you to a network of people like you who are doing similar things. So that with the tools and resources they provide for you, you guys can have ripple effect in your communities, right? So the most important thing here is when you think about fellowship, maybe people are thinking about church fellowship. It's similar. It's similar, but the only difference is that in church fellowship, um, the connecting factor is the fact that you have a shared belief, a shared idea, and a shared you share a lot in common. But for international development fellowships is a community of change makers that have shared vision and shared aspiration, and also benefit shared resources from whatever organization that they are benefiting from. And oftentimes those fellows don't just become people who meet one off. They form what you call lifelong relationships.
Relationships.
Yes, lifelong networks in such a way that even after they are done with that program, they become friends for life, and those friendship is based on the kind of work they do. For instance,
Mm,
a model is Mandela Washington Fellowship. After the 6 weeks or 12 weeks fellowship, fellows, everybody goes back to the different continent. But you now realize that some people are collaborating. A
yeah.
fellow in Ghana is working with a fellow in Nigeria and working in the same project, right? If
Mm,
you want to travel, for instance, to Rwanda to go do a program, you can call a fellow and say, "Dude, man, are you in town? I want to come do this project." And immediately you have collaboration. So, fellowships are platforms where you're given the opportunity to accelerate your community building abilities, but more importantly, to also build a network and a relationship that helps you do what you do. um Definitely most fellowship are always fully sponsored, most of them they pay for your flight, they pay for your feeding, they pay for your accommodation, they give you stipends, they make sure that your life is very comfortable because they understand that the work you're doing in the community is very important and very noble, and so they do all they can to invest, but they also have a business goal. They
mm,
will need, when you are succeeding, they will need to talk about you on their platforms, right? They will
yes.
highlight you and say,
Yeah.
Tosi Banjo was one of our fellows. Today, she has become the Minister of Justice and Kiniko in the Africa. Before you know, you're like, oh, mommy, I don't say I big like this. So they will, because that's their joy. Their joy is that you succeed. And
Mm,
they're always impressed with the fact that fellows are very, very successful. Um, so a fellowship basically is a community of young professionals who have shared values, shared system with the goal that they'll build a community after the program, a network, so that they can be very successful in whatever impact programs that they're doing afterwards.
Thank you very much, Fidelis. It's really been a great night of learning, great insights shared with us. It's really has been a night of just really see you share your very deep wisdom. And really we don't take this for granted. Thank you once again. Just
Thank you.
before I would have you share your final thoughts, I
Yeah.
want to encourage um, one of our audience members in here, and I
Yeah.
wanted to also encourage him as well. So he typed in here a comment saying
Okay.
that I feel like crying with what you're sharing. I have a clear picture of what my purpose is,
Hmm.
helping people with guidance and counseling, but I feel discouraged because I didn't get sponsors for my ideas. And I just want to tell the person that I hope you joined in earlier because Fidelis spoke about rejection and
Right.
how rejection is a preparatory tool,
Yeah.
to grow you and refine you. And
Right.
eventually, you will still access these opportunities. But it's really just schooling you as
Yeah.
to maybe there are certain things you don't know just yet, or certain competencies you must begin to harness just
Yes.
before you step into that opportunity. So I hope this encourages you,
Yeah.
Adisa Peter. You
Yeah.
are doing well,
Yeah.
and don't let anyone's rejection become a definition of who you are. And I also
Yeah.
want Fidelis to do that as well. You just encourage him.
Thank you for that, Twin. I think that's a very brilliant advice. I guess my advice for Adisa would be, your reward, your greatest currency is the lives of those you counsel.
Yes.
Your greatest reward and currency is not the fellowships or the grants, whatever. Those will finish. Trust me. It's the lives of those you counsel, and I mean that because um, when the chips are down, you can look back and said, "I did my work authentically, irrespective of whatever it is. Whether or not I got it, I did the work." And that's why I said you have to be true. If you think your life purpose is helping people with maybe psychological problems, mental health problems, family issues, education, as a guidance and counselor, whatever area that you have been gifted, more importantly, very gifted, called to do, to work, it's important to understand that your reward is not in all these opportunities. Those are secondary, they are enablers, but
Yes.
they are not
Yes.
primary. So
Mm.
take consolation in the fact that when you counsel somebody and somebody meets from a place of zero to hero, you have you have succeeded. In fact, that's a testament of your great work. That's the first, and that's why I said this thing is a mindset thing.
I love
And
it.
it is that
Very true.
mindset that people now use to apply for these grants,
Very
these
true.
fellowships.
Yeah.
And that's why they are always chosen.
Chosen.
So focus on the impact of your work.
Love it. Very
Understand what you're doing. Document this impact, and that is what you
true.
present. And hopefully, you get selected.
Thank you, Fidelis, once again for that very powerful contribution. So he's asking a question here,
Yeah.
which goes first. How do we break the barrier of age limitations
Yeah.
while applying for fellowship programs?
Yeah, to be practical, don't go to a program you are not qualified for. It's a waste of time, to be honest. Just look at the criteria. The moment they say this age bracket isn't working, don't apply. But there's something called paying it forward. Send that resource to somebody, maybe one of your mentees, and help them with the application. If they get in, you win. Okay. That way, you are democratizing opportunities for folks,
I
and you
love
never know. Obama was mentored by somebody, right? All these great guys had mentors. They had people who opened the doors for them. Your job might just be to recommend somebody for that fellowship or help them with that fellowship. So if you don't qualify, help somebody who qualifies and help them succeed. That way, you are succeeding. Secondly, there's the very unconventional way, and I don't know if I should be sharing this. I have worked on reviewing I have worked on different organizations that review applications. So that's why I said when I went through those rejections, I understood quickly why I was selected to review many applications for many organizations. I worked with the UN as a reviewer. I worked with Atlas Co as a reviewer. I worked with UNDP as a reviewer. I've worked with all these organizations to help review applications. And from that experience as someone who reviews things, one thing I can tell you for sure is even when you're not qualified age wise, you can apply to support their program as a reviewer.
I love it.
Yes. There is
That's
no
enough
opening. Yeah, there's no opening out there. Just
there.
tell them, I am good at this. I know you're calling for this program and you want to get the next generation. I am an expert in this area and I thought I'll be helpful to this program. Most times, don't talk about money yet. Just tell them how you want to support their projects and how you want to be beneficial. So you can even be part of the fellowship, not just as a fellow, but even as a consultant, as a mentor, or even as a reviewer. So most times, in my case, when I don't qualify for things, but I want to identify with them, I write them to support their initiatives. And most times I get a yes because I tell them this is what I'm good at. This is the kind of things I can bring on board. I know you want to build the next generation of leaders in this space. I can be very useful in this area for you. And most times they come on board and they realize that, oh my goodness, this guy is good at what he does. They give you important opportunities. You'll be surprised that you, they are supposed to be a fellow self. You are the oga pata pata of the whole something. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Fidelis. Adesore is appreciating. It says, thanks for the great encouragement. I appreciate you all. I just decided to do more, lots of content to share, especially with the school system. So I trust that all that we have shared tonight,
Yeah.
really just go back, watch the replay, and really make our time to now draw up a very pragmatic, unique action point for what to do next. Thank you so much, Fidelis. Very, very pragmatic thoughts. So I want you to share your final words with us just before we round up tonight.
Yeah. I think my final word will be first and foremost, understand who you are as a person and what your role should be as a young professional, as a young African leader. And again, don't be too excited about the idea of leadership as per position. Understand that leadership is taking responsibility first and foremost for your life. Very important. Because if you die today, all the problem you're meant to solve, you won't be able to solve it all. So I tell people self leadership is basically taking responsibility for yourself, for your mental health, for your growth. Develop yourself. Develop yourself. Don't worry about the See, any leader that is anybody today, look, just go and read their track record. These are people who have invested time in self development. Spend time developing yourself. Spend time reading the biographies of leaders that you want to look like or be like. If you admire Tosi Banjo, go and study her, study online, study the things she do. What are the things she loves? You can model people from afar. If you admire people like Barack Obama, study this. These people have left digital trails everywhere, right? Study the people that you want to become. See what they did differently, right? So it's important to spend time studying and developing yourself. Secondly, connect with people that can help you grow and not people that will help you depreciate. And I know that's very obvious, but we get into relationships that are very toxic and there's the law of influence.
Hmm,
That's the truth. There's a law of
very true.
influence. Toxic relationship is not just only about, male, female or dating. It could also be
Very
within
true.
this non-profit or social development space where you are competing with this guy because this guy is getting grants and I'm not getting grants. It becomes no, don't do that. Like you need to be in a relationship with people that can help you grow. If you
Yes.
admire an organization or you admire somebody, become friends. It's not a competition. I tell people you can go faster when you collaborate. So, in fact,
Yes.
collaboration is the next kind of competition. Is
I
the
love
next
it.
kind of competition,
Very
right? So
true.
if you want to compete with people, collaborate with them. And collaborating isn't about you just going to beg and say, please help me out. No, come with something on the table. Tell them, say, I can offer this to your organization. My organization right now, we are still leaping. I can help you in this regard. You can build together. There's so much joy, and that's why I said in Africa, especially as young entrepreneurs, young social impact leaders, we need to work as one, not in silos. We can't make impacts individually, right? And
Very
that's
true.
why as soon as I got the information to get come on board, I was like, yeah, this is good because I believe in partnership for development. It's very important.
Yes.
After a while, truth is, Miss Toyin, we will be tired. You will you will have to face more important things. You have to face family. You have to face so many things. Life would happen, right? So that's where you need networks. Very important. Networks of folks,
Very
right?
true.
So develop yourself, look for mentors that will help you, get into relationships that help to appreciate your work rather than depreciate it, right? Finally, more importantly, understand that after all is said and done, you'll be remembered not for the number of cars you had, the number of phones you bought, the number of jobs you had, the number of positions you occupied. You'll be remembered for the impact and the memories you created in the lives of those you met.
Very true.
That's the most important factor. If you go global, you travel to the US, you are on this program, you're on this scholarship, and all of that, and no one can remember you for the value you brought to their lives, it's as good as not going at all. So understand that your job, more importantly, is not just because you want to get on this platform, it's because you want to create memories, you want to improve people's lives, you want to make systems better, because that is what leadership is about. Developing yourself so that you can develop others. As I always say, my 3D model, spend time developing yourself, spend time discovering yourself, spend more time developing that self, and more importantly, deploy yourself to the service of others. Thank you very much.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Fidelis, for tonight. Really, it's been an awesome time spent with you. I can assure you that our audience and our community members
Right,
are attesting all that I'm sharing right now. Thank you so much. Thank you for honoring our invitation, and thank you for pouring so much of yourself in
right,
this session. We don't take this for granted in any way. I really love again how you just rounded off this session saying it's really, really about, yes, knowing who you are, discovering, developing, and deploying yourself. And it's
yeah,
also about collaborating,
right,
stepping into communities, to collaborate for building sustainable impact, for making sustainable impact. It's never about a selfish goal or
right,
selfish ambition to
yeah,
either be known or be famous through your impact work. Will that happen? Yes.
yeah,
Fame will come, but that's
yeah,
not the goal. The goal,
yeah,
first and foremost, is to make sustainable impact. That's
right,
really the goal. And I thank you
yeah,
for reashing that. Thank you
right,
so much, Fidelis, for tonight.
yeah,
Once again, we deeply appreciate you honoring our invitation, and our audience members also are attesting to this. To everyone, thank you for tonight. We look forward to yet another powerful edition of the IHA Social Impact webinar. Just as Fidelis rightly said, it's like you peeped into our next topic for the next edition, which has to do with the power of storytelling. So I was like, it's in sync. Thank you so much, because really that's the topic we'll be dissecting
excellent.
in the coming weeks, in the next month. Once again, to everyone, thank you for staying with us, staying tuned, staying connected, really from the start till this very moment. I know we have had a very brilliant guest mentor with us, and we
Right,
don't take this for granted in any way. Once again, we assure you, I know most people who are tuned in are from our community, Ideation of Africa,
yeah,
and I will encourage you, if you have family members who are not plugged in,
mm,
please talk them, encourage them, tell them to really stay connected.
right,
Subscribe to our YouTube channel,
mm,
follow us across many other platforms. So, Fidelis, let me give you this opportunity quickly. If
okay.
people would love to connect with you, how
Mhm.
can they do that? Let us know.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that I also believe in visibility. You cannot work in silos. You cannot work hiding, right? So, as one of those comedians says, you cannot put on a light and hide it under the bush. You can't. The light has to be very bright. So,
Yeah.
one of the ways I'm very clear about myself and what I do is social media. So, it's Fidelis Bonaventure on LinkedIn, Fidelis Bonaventure Uzoma, LinkedIn, um, Facebook, Fidelis Bonaventure Uzoma on Facebook, Instagram, FB Deploy. But if you type Fidelis Bonaventure Uzoma, you find me. Twitter, the same space. I'm always trying to create opportunities and avenues for people just basically to come around, and we can definitely have. So those are like best ways to just type the name Fidelis or Fidelis Uzoma, Fidelis Bonaventure. Just look at the flyer. I'm sure my full name
Yes.
is there. Just type
Exactly.
it. It's easy to come up. Yeah. But if you have any personal thing you want to talk about, my email can be shared. It's fidelisbonaventure@gmail.com. So I'm happy to take in one or two comments, inquiries, and stuff, basically. But I'm always available if the opportunity. And again, this thing is also about. There comes a time you'll be so busy, and you want to
Yes.
make sure that you are using your time rightly, right? But the
Yes.
best place is let's connect on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is
Yes.
always a very good professional place to connect. And yeah,
Thank you so much, Fidelis. And to
yeah,
our amazing audience and community members, we say thank you once again for joining us tonight. And we look forward to having each of you on board the next edition. Do enjoy
yeah,
restful night and a
yeah.
blissful week ahead.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. All right. Bye, everyone.